It is that time of the year again, the time of the year when we restock on our favorite stationery supplies, download the latest must-have productivity apps, and the time when we get back into our routines of waking up and getting to bed early. Hard as it may be to admit, trust me, I too am still in denial. We have to slowly say goodbye to lounging in bed all day and slowly get back into the swing of things. So let's ease ourselves back into a positive academic mindset and prepare for the upcoming school year. Phase 1 of my academic year prep is preparing my physical workspace. There is no doubt that a clean and organized workspace can give you mental clarity. Removing all the clutter, dusting off my desk, and organizing all the files just lying around my study area sets me in a better mood and energy to start the year. When my study area is cluttered, I notice that my mind is also cluttered. I get stressed out when trying to look for a paper in a pile of old unorganized documents, and frankly, I also have a hard time studying because my mind's attention tends to shift from what's in front of me to what's around me. But when I have a neatly organized study area, I can study with no distractions. I can find important notes and papers from previous academic years, and I can focus on getting important tasks done. After dusting off my desk, I unboxed these desk essentials from Grovemade, which has easily become one of my favorite presents this year. Grovemade uses high-quality wood to beautifully design and craft these functional desk essentials that can help you build and create your own dream workspace. They have a variety of different products to suit your productivity system, from laptop stands to iPad stands to shelving systems to desk trays and more. Grovemade was kind enough to send me their laptop stand, their MacBook dock, their iPad stand, and their pen cup, all of which are made of maple wood. I am in love with how these accessories transformed my workspace. Definitely a productivity booster. If you want to start creating your dream workspace with Grovemade, you can head over to the link in the description below and you can use my code Patricia10 for a 10% discount off of your purchase. Once I have my physical workspace organized, let's move on to stationery supplies. Now, I used to go over the top with my school supplies, and I used to justify that by thinking and saying that I'm better prepared when I have everything and more. But the truth is, those extra sets of colored pens will eventually dry out, and those extra notebooks will eventually just sit at the back of your desk without being used. Now that I've gone through 8 semesters in college and more in high school, I've learned to keep only the stationery supplies that I was able to empty in the past academic years. If you aren't able to use up that one specific school item, don't repurchase, because chances are you also won't be able to empty or use it up this coming school year. Now that I'm in college and everything is rapidly transitioning into a digital system, I now use my laptop and my iPad for anything that concerns academics. Huge thanks to my dad, because I recently purchased a new 16-inch MacBook Pro with the M2 Max chip because my old MacBook sadly gave up on me after 3 years of being together. It just completely froze as I was using it, so it's a very stressful start to the new school year, but hopefully this new one lasts and we get through several more years of editing and studying. With my iPad, I am still using my 12.9-inch M1 iPad Pro. Now, when I was in high school, I used to use this binder. This one's the A4 binder from Muji, and I highly recommend this one because these papers are purchased separate from the binder, so you can get only the papers that you need and keep the remaining ones in this pack. If by the end of the school year you still have remaining loose leaf papers in this pack, then you'd be able to use them on your next school year. I found this really helpful because when I used to use notebooks for each of my classes, I'm not usually able to use up all the pages, and the thing is, I prefer keeping my notes for my old classes and my new classes separate. I don't want them to be mixed up in one notebook just because it's harder to find the notes that I need when the time comes. So I end up wasting the entire notebook because I would wouldn't be able to use the remaining pages for my new classes. But with this binder, I can get only the papers that I need without having to waste the entire pack, and I just buy dividers also from Muji to separate my notes for each of my classes. If I don't have, let's say, a chem class for the day, I can just take out my chem notes and carry my other ones with me. For hard copies of exams, papers, and handouts, I use a clear envelope, which I carry around when I need to. For pens, I actually forgot to get it, so please hold. Okay, for pens, I have the Muji gel pen, friction pen. This one's an erasable pen, which is particularly useful for exams in case your professors decide that erasures aren't allowed, and the Muji mechanical pencil. I don't use graphite pencils anymore unless they're absolutely required, because with mech pens, I can just buy refills and I don't have to go through sharpening each tip. Not that it's so much of a hassle, I'm just nitpicky. I also buy sticky notes. I have this one from Muji and I have this one from Shopee, I believe, and I used to use this to draw supplementary diagrams for my notes. Phase 2 of my academic year prep is setting up my digital spaces. Since transitioning, I have to always slow down when I see those two words consecutively. Since transitioning to a digital system, I spend most of my time on my laptop, on my iPad, and on my phone. And I'm sure we can all agree that your laptops, your iPads, and most especially your phones are hotspots for digital distractions. You can easily message your friends for hours and hours on end. You can play games with the excuse that it would only last a few minutes, and you can easily access your social media unknowingly spending 3 hours on TikTok. But with the upcoming school year, we have to be more intentional on how we use our devices instead of letting our devices take control of us and our time. So the first thing that I do is decluttering my digital files. The end of a school year marks cluttered desktops and unorganized files. And I'm sure with the summer vacation, that clutter was also left untouched. Before a new school year brings another pile of clutter that is going to stay in your laptop until another school year begins, start decluttering and organizing your files. I've already set up an organization system for my digital files, and I made a video on that a few months back. Check it out if you haven't yet. But basically, I use my laptop for storing temporary in-progress files, and I use my Google Drive as my primary storage space for university. In my Google Drive, I have folders for each semester, and within each one, I have set up folders for each of my classes. Within these folders, I rename each file into the course code in brackets and then the file name. I try to be as specific and as consistent as possible, just so it's easier to search through the drive when I need to find anything in particular. Aside from my laptop, I also declutter my iPad and my phone, and that includes clearing out unnecessary photos, transferring files to my drive, and setting up the pages in my home screen for productivity. According to James Clear, given that we are more dependent on vision than on any other sense, it should come as no surprise that visual cues are the greatest catalyst of our behavior. As a result, you can imagine how important it is to live and work in environments that are filled with productive cues and devoid of unproductive ones. Just as how visual cues help us perform and commit to healthy habits, drawing our attention to productivity and mindfulness apps instead of Netflix, of TikTok, or of Instagram helps us shift our focus and mindset towards being more productive. With my phone and my iPad, I set up the first few pages to only show the productivity and mindfulness apps that I use often. All distracting and miscellaneous apps are on the last page, or better, removed completely from my home screen, just so I can avoid accessing them at my convenience. Once I have decluttered my digital files, I set up my wallpapers. I like to use my schedule as a wallpaper. I know, boring, but I do that just so it's easier to access my schedule when I need to, and in case I forget what my next class is, especially in the first few weeks of school. I created this using Canva, and of course, I have already made a template that you can use. Now that I have an organized digital slate, I want to share how I set up my Notion, which is the heart of my productivity system. I made a video on my entire Notion workspace a while back, so check that out to get the template, but essentially, once you have duplicated my template, you can go to the university dashboard and fill out each section and each database. So I usually start with my academic courses database. I create a new page by using the default template that I made, and then I go through filling out all missing information. Once I've created all the pages for my academic courses, I then go to my course guide and I create a hyperlink to those pages, just so I can have a list that I can easily look at and access for my courses each semester. I am going to leave the sections below, such as has the inbox, the master calendar, and the upcoming impending tasks empty because the semester is just starting out. But if the semester has already started for you, then you can definitely use the databases below. Now let's talk about all the tools that I use to have a smooth sailing semester. I use Apple Calendar for time blocking. Some people find time blocking too rigid, which is valid, especially if you're just trying it out for the first time. I found it really frustrating when I first started time blocking because on days when I wasn't able to follow my schedule, I would have to redo all my blocks for the rest of the week. But it's important to keep in mind that time blocking should also allow a space in your schedule for flexibility. Now, I find time blocking to be really helpful because it allows me to run on autopilot. In a good way. I don't have to suffer from decision fatigue trying to figure out what to do next, when to do this task and this other task, and I don't have to suffer from the consequences of biting off more than I can chew, scheduling all my tasks in one day. The next app is Google Docs, which is my note-taking app. I won't go in depth about my note-taking process anymore because you guessed it right, I've already made a video on my note-taking system. I highly recommend watching it, so be sure to do so after this video. But I think I wasn't able to mention why I transitioned from using Microsoft Word. Number one, I had a hard time syncing my notes across all my devices, which I really need, but I just couldn't figure out how to make it work with Microsoft Word. And second, I'm not sure if this is also present in Microsoft Word, but what I really appreciate in Google Docs is it has this outline feature. So if I have pages and pages worth of notes, which has been a frequent occurrence, I can just go through the outline and I can easily find a specific concept or lesson. I also use GoodNotes for handwritten notes and for reading and highlighting textbooks. I use Forest as my Pomodoro timer, Anki, which is a flashcards tool for active recall and spaced repetition, and Notion. Of course. Now that we have our physical and digital spaces all ready for the new school year, let's talk about some healthy habits because with the new school year, things can get really bad really fast. Your tasks can easily pile up, and if you don't have a system in place, you can get left behind. First up, always plot your calendar deadlines. I remember reading this quote, which is attributed to David Allen: "Your mind is for having ideas, not for holding them." Every day, or rather every minute, we think about a new idea, a new project, a new to-do. Our mind gets filled with all these exciting, creative thoughts, which is great, but sometimes it also struggles to organize and process these thoughts because there is just so much chaos. There is just so many things going on in our head, especially if we completely rely on our brains to remember all these information, and if you don't have a place to store all the ideas floating around in your head. If you completely rely on your brain to remember your tasks, your deadlines, on top of your lessons in school, there is a high likelihood that you will forget them. Whether that's a good old-fashioned pen and paper or a to-do/calendar app, in my case, I use Notion, always plot your calendar deadlines. In this way, you'd be able to know in advance which tasks are coming up and how you can schedule your time. Speaking of scheduling, learn to set your non-negotiables. This has always been a mistake of mine, and I don't know why I still haven't learned my lesson, but a piece of advice from a senior in college: learn to set your non-negotiables. If you want to stay sane in school, set and prioritize your non-negotiables. Non-negotiables are habits, routines, activities, or even tasks in your day that should be done no matter what. For me, that includes my morning and evening routines and exercise, which I am really hard on making part of my non-negotiables this coming school year. Your non-negotiable may even be a task or a particular assignment in school. For me, my non-negotiables allow me to find something fulfilling every day, especially when I have such a crazy and chaotic schedule. If I am able to accomplish my daily non-negotiables, I am set for the day. If I am able to accomplish my morning and evening routines, I am good. If I'm able to finish this assignment, which I assigned as my non-negotiable for the day, I feel accomplished. Everything else in my to-do list is just a bonus. One thing I learned on my first year of college, which until now I carry, I stand by, and I practice, is the piecemeal approach. Piecemeal literally means one piece at a time, doing something step by step or piece by piece. If I have, let's say, an exam on Saturday that covers lessons 1 to 5, I will use the piecemeal approach to study the coverage for that exam. I will study lesson 1 on Monday, lesson 2 on Tuesday, lesson 3 on Wednesday, and so on and so forth, forth until I have studied the entire coverage on time for that exam. I will not study lessons 1 to 5 on Wednesday alone. The piecemeal approach has honestly saved me from feeling overwhelmed and burnt out all the time because it divides my difficult tasks into bite-sized chunks that I can accomplish and chunks that I can get done. Without the piecemeal approach, I probably would have written a paper in one sitting all exhausted, and I probably would have studied for a quiz in one day all burnt out. Finally, health is wealth for a reason. Drink lots and lots of water. I know temptations are everywhere, especially when you're out and about. Don't chug 3 venti cups of your favorite coffee, and drink lots of water as much as you can. Also, find the time to exercise and don't make excuses like me. And of course, rest. A 30-minute rest or a 15-minute rest can do wonders for your body. Give your mind and body the rest it deserves. Make it your non-negotiable. I know we all want to savor our remaining days of summer vacation, but preparing ahead of time is a non-negotiable so we can have a stress-free start to the new academic year. I would also love to know how you are preparing for your new school year. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for sticking around, and I will see you guys in my next one.